So now it's June, and this is my book, The Light Years. I want to thank the Super Relaxed Fantasy Club for inviting me on, and... Oh, wait a minute. I said June, didn't I? Hold on a second.
Recording is happening.
A long-lost battleship and an arranged marriage may hold the key to faster-than-light travel in humanity's future in R.W.W. Greene's The Light Years. Hisako Sasaki was born with her life already mapped out. In exchange for an education, better housing for her family, and a boost out of poverty, she's been contracted to an arranged marriage to Adem Sadiq, a maintenance engineer and self-styled musician who works and lives aboard his family's sublight freighter, the Hajj. Hisako is not happy with the deal. The arcane branch of physics it requires her to study broke off 1,000 years before, and she is not keen on the idea of giving up everything she knows to marry a stranger and move onto an aging spaceship. On board the Hajj, Hisako soon learns her dilemmas are overshadowed by the discovery of ancient secrets, a derelict warship, and a chance at giving the survivors of Earth a fresh start. So these are the original Carnolian bees. These are the ones that have swarmed thrice in various ways. These are tucka bees that we refer to as the Gallifreyans because this sort of looks like a TARDIS to us. Currently they're hot, they're warm, so they're hanging out on the outside of the hive to cool off. This is Rogue One, our first swarm. Next to it is, I can't remember the cool name I gave these, but these guys actually kind of swarmed twice. They swarmed and then they came back to the original hive and then they swarmed again, and then we put them in here and they seem to be reasonably happy inside the makeshift hive that we put together. This is the typewriter room. I do some collecting and repairing of typewriters, some writing on the typewriters,
size of this vehicle compared to the size of Adam's cabin on the ship?
Ooh, good question. I think Adam's cabin on the ship is actually closer to a 10 by 10, 10 by 12. So roughly 4 Mini Coopers in at least square footage. Maybe 8 Mini Coopers in terms of volume.
Okay, all right. That's good. We are heading to pick up our CSA.
We certainly are.
Some fruits and vegetables. So what is Adam's favorite food? It's probably not in the light years, but what would his favorite food be?
Well, if you remember from the light years, one of his favorite meals was biscuits and gravy that the chef cooked up on the Hajj, the ship. So I think Adam probably has a little bit of a carb thing that he likes. They're mostly actually vegetarian because there's not anywhere to get meat, so it's all just kind of reconstituted proteins and this kind of stuff. But when the chef makes it, it's almost like a chicken gravy, almost. But of course, no chickens.
No chickens in space.
No chickens in space.
So in the book, we just passed by some mattresses on the side of the road. So in the book, there are some troubled areas where Hisako comes from. And her dad's favorite chair had a nice little story to it about how it got home. What places did you take as inspiration for the look and feel of those neighborhoods?
That's interesting. A little bit of Manchester, New Hampshire, some places in the town that we live in currently. But also like Niamey, Niger, which is a place I kicked around for a little bit once upon a time. And also San Miguel, San Salvador, which is a place. San Miguel in El Salvador, which is a place I kicked around a little bit because, it's one of those places where you can be in a city in one moment and the next moment be in a village that doesn't have any water or power. And that's kind of what I was thinking about when I thought about Gaul, which is the planet that Hisako comes from.
Oh, it smells like fried chicken.
It does.
Not that I ate chicken.
Yeah. I wrote a story based on that place.
Did you?
Yeah, it got sold.
Oh. That's a good story. That's good fried chicken, everyone.
Good fried chicken.
Miss fried chicken.
So what other questions do you have about The Light Years, which is a book that you haven't finished?
I've read the drafts of.
Yeah, okay.
Oh.
Nice.
Oh, music. Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, I got a nice whiff of beer there too.
Alright, since we were just passed by some music.
Yeah.
So you had some inspiration from these other places, but Adam's playing some really old, especially by their standards, songs on his guitar in space. How did you choose the songs that he decided to play?
I kind of thought about, as people were evacuating the Earth, what cultures would be picked up and saved. And unfortunately, I tend to think it would be the richer cultures, the more powerful cultures that would be saved, while a lot of music from African countries and South American countries and that kind of stuff might not have been important enough or considered important enough to be have everything recorded and brought up. So I have a bad feeling that in the world that I created, a lot of those smaller, impoverished cultures got lost.
It's really sad.
So a lot of the music got lost, a lot of the art got lost. They're gonna scan the Venus de Milo, but they're probably not gonna scan all the beautiful work that the Tuaregs are doing, and so on and so on. So I think it's really sad too.
Oh, I know. One of my favorite parts, even though I have a love-hate relationship with our own cats, is Hisako has a pet in the book when she's younger. And I'm really kind of curious as to why it was important for you to throw in some type of pet element, and how even there's some interesting class divisions around pets and how they focus in the book.
Well, one man's pet is another man's dinner. And there are things that, in the Western world we consider pets that other cultures might look at and think of as a tasty snack. And I'm thinking about guinea pigs, for example, which, people have guinea pigs here in America. They keep them in cages, but in, South America and some other places, they're delicious. So that's kind of where I was going with that. The idea of the sand cats. And, I like goats. I think goats are cute. I would love to have a pet goat with a little waggly tail. But I also know for a fact that goats are delicious. And I understand that many people eat goats as a staple.
I didn't realize that was so deep.
Delicious goats?
No, I didn't realize that was such a deep answer to why they're in the book the way they are.
Yeah, well, So racism is evil, and I hope that you and yours are doing whatever you can to kind of offset that by calling it out when you see it. You see something, you say something, doing what you can to kind of offset the inherent imbalance in the system. Inherent is the wrong word because it was built into the system. So whatever you can do to kind of do what you can, please do. I'm going to finish this video off with a little reading from the Light Years. I'm doing this thing. I have been doing this thing when I bring the book out, I have been doing readings. I did do some readings before the pandemic shut it all down. Is that I've been asking people who attend the readings to sign my copy of the book, because I really only need one copy. And they've been signing it and leaving little notes, and it's kind of nice. So whenever I open the book, I see a message from a friend or someone who's enjoyed the book or something like that, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to just do a quick little reading from the book, starting on page 12. Adem, who's the main male character in the book, he's about 27 at this point, and he lands on Gaul to finish this contractual marriage, this wife arrangement he's doing. And the woman he's going to marry has not been born yet, because this book is about relativity. He's got relativity involved. So Adem's going to take off. His ship goes at relativistic speed, so maybe 2 months is going to go by for him. And by the time he gets back, his bride-to-be has been all grown up. So she's almost kind of a baby to order. And this is a little bit from the bride-to-be's parents. So the bride has not yet been born yet, but her parents are kind of talking about it. Did we do the right thing? Hadia Sasaki put her hand on the small of her back and got up to pace the apartment. Her belly preceded her like a small moon. We've had this conversation many times, Joao said. He took his wife by the hand. Let's have it again, she said. Joao exaggerated a sigh. If we had not made her a bride, she would have been an illicit. If she had been an illicit, she would be dead, or we would be in prison. The arrangement will give her a better life. Hadia nodded, biting her lip at a pain deeper than the contraction that had first jolted her into motion. It's just that she is so tiny. She'll be 24 when it is time to leave us. That is not so small. And what will she think of us? Joao took Hadia's other hand. They stood together in silence for a moment. She will see it as it is, Joao said. A chance to get out of the shit her parents lived in. Don't say that word. It's just a word. Joao massaged the small of her back. Are you feeling better? It's not just a word, she said. You are not shit. Our daughter is not shit. It takes shit to make flowers, Joao said, and my life is a garden full of them. He gestured around the small living room. I couldn't have dreamed of this when I was a boy. There were 7 of us in a room this size, with a bathroom shared by 8 families. He helped Hadia back to her seat. And all it cost us for their daughter, Hadia said. The traitor never smiled. Do you remember that? I can't imagine our daughter loving such a cold man. Joao kissed Hadia on the cheek.
Rest today. I will clean the apartment when I return from work. I want to see you perched on pillows eating sweets and watching vids when I get home. He smiled. After I clean and make dinner, I'll read to her. I don't understand why you're so interested in reading that old poetry to her. She doesn't understand Japanese. I don't know much of it myself, but I want my little girl to know her heritage. What about her Turkish side? She's more Turk than Japanese. Have you ever read Turkish poetry? He raised his eyebrows. Do you really want to expose her to that? I've never read Turkish poetry, and I bet you haven't either. He laughed. We'll try some on Sunday. Joel knelt and nuzzled his wife's ear. Remember, if she were not to be a bride, then neither could you be. I had to tie you to me in some way. She slid her hand along his cheek. You bound me the day we met. Such a grubby little boy, full of dreams and poetry. You grubby little Ronin, ready to lay down his life for love and family. He lifted the hem of her shirt and kissed her belly. We should get her a pet. Only the rich have pets. We have riches beyond money, my empress, he bowed to her. Besides, it will be a little pet, and not until she's older. I will save up, he put on his hat. Until I see you again, my love. She put her fingers to her lips and blew him a kiss. Until I see you again, grubby boy. Joao took the stairs to save money. The 10 flights down were not so bad, but coming up after a long day, he sometimes made a different choice. Versailles City had been built in a crater, their first structures dug into the walls and rim and protected by an overhang made from ejecta. It had grown upward and inward from there, its atmosphere held in place by artificial inversion. The original families, the rich families, still lived on the city's edge in a district they called La Mer. Joao waited at the shuttle stop at the end of his block and looked for familiar constellations in the early morning sky. La Mer in Midtown had the wealth, but the view of the stars was far better from the center. He sipped at the water in his distiller and tried not to sweat. Hattie was sad now, but that would change when the baby was born. They would read to the little girl and teach her the family stories. In time, as all children did, she would leave, but she would leave home with the future at her feet instead of crushing her shoulders. The ground shuttle approached, belching from its meal of waste hydrocarbons and garbage. The driver triggered the door as it pulled to a stop. Hello, rich man, he said. Are you ready to work with the peasants today? Jakasu. Joao slapped the man on his shoulder and climbed into the passenger apartment. Compared to the other workers, he did live in luxury now, but that was only because of the money the Sadiqs had provided. The trader couldn't have his bride living in the heart of La Merde. What would all the other spacemen think? The shuttle was full of bleary-eyed workers, most of them sleeping out their nightly inebriation. Some of them, from the smell, had only crawled out of the bar to meet the shuttle. Joao walked past 4 rows of seats before sliding in next to his friend David. David blinked his eyes open. Do you have a bottle? Joao shook his head. I, unlike you, my friend, have something to live for. Then what good are you? David grunted and tried to find a more comfortable slouch in the hard plastic seats. He rarely had a good word to say, but Joao liked him anyway. David was an educated man. He had been a teacher in La Mer before he got too involved with a student and was driven away. Joao had asked him once if she had been worth it, and David hadn't talked to him for 6 days. He had not risked it again because he loved to talk to the man about poetry and history. David blew his nose on his sleeve. What are you reading to your daughter tonight? Ryushi? David nodded. Not as much of a hack as some. The older man looked weary. As a teacher, he had probably carried his middle-class heaviness well. Now, in exile, the skin hung in folds from his face. The other workers called him Hound Dog. Where did you sleep last night? Joao said. Under a table, under a bridge. It doesn't matter. No rain fell on my head. It hadn't rained for a month, and the next scheduled shower is more than 20 days away. Did you eat? I'm not hungry. Joao pulled a sandwich out of his pocket. Amuse me. I made a bet with my wife that you lived only on words. If I'm wrong, I sleep on the couch tonight. David unwrapped the sandwich. His hands were shaking. I can't have you living happy in such times. He chewed the sandwich with a mouthful of broken teeth. Thank your wife for me. Joao pulled a packet of protein shake out of another pocket. She'll be even crueler to me if you wash it down with this. David finished the sandwich and sucked on the shake's built-in straw. You have saved my life today, he grunted. I am not sure whether to thank you or curse you. Joao grinned. Why should you escape when the rest of us are stuck in this misery? The shuttle took them through Le Maire to the oxygen works. The works had been designed to be automated, but refugees turned out to be cheaper and easier to replace than robots. The machines that still functioned had been pulled into service elsewhere. The shuttle came to a stop outside the factory gates, and the workers filed off, running the barcodes tattooed on their palms over the reader so the company could dock their paychecks for the daily ride. Only a few workers lived near the oxygen works. The din from his 24-hour operations kept all but the poorest and the deafest from settling nearby. A ragged man with a sign sprawled against the wall to the left of the gate. Joao squinted, his reading skills warring with a man's poor spelling. "Spare up coin for a comrade," the sign read. The man was missing both legs below the knee. Blood still blossomed among the bandages layered over the man's stumps. Joao knew the machine that had taken the man's limbs. After all, he stood over it most of the day and lived in fear of a similar injury. He tossed a coin into the man's bowl for luck. "Pairing the Reaper," David said. Joao had not realized his friend had come alongside him. "He doesn't have use for such. What would he spend it on?" "A good lunch," Joao said, "and a pet for his daughter." Thank you for your time. Thank you to the group for providing me this time to talk about the book and talk to you. You guys have some awesome videos, and I wish I lived closer, that I could actually come to an actual event and hang out in the pub with you. I wish you the best of luck and the best of health in this time, and keep the faith. Thanks.